The air hung thick with the scent of death, sweet, sour, unmistakable, clinging to the stones like ivy, seeping from every cracked doorway and shuttered home. At dawn, the city looked asleep, but it was not sleep that silenced its streets. It was something far older, more final. Mist crept along the cobblestones, curling around the empty stalls of the market square, slipping through the hinges of chapel doors, where incense had once danced to the rhythm of morning prayer. The bells no longer rang on time, sometimes not at all. Their ropes hung limp in towers where no hands remained to pull them. This was a city that once sang with the noise of trade and laughter, with sermons and song. But now it had grown still, too still, like the hush that follows a scream no one heard. On the edge of the merchant's quarter, a window stood open to the frost, its shutters flung wide as if something had fled in the night. A loaf of bread sat uneaten on the sill, hard as stone, dusted and mold. Below, a cart creaked as it passed two wheels, one missing a spoke drawn by a single roan horse whose ribs showed beneath its sagging hide. The driver wore no colors, only gray wool stained with bile. He did not speak. Behind him, the cart overflowed with bodies wrapped in linen, and curtains, and bedsheets torn in haste. Fingers protruded, hair caught the wind. A young girl watched from the shadows between two buildings, clutching a cloth doll missing its head. Her breath fogged in the cold as she traced the edge of the stone wall, inching closer not toward the dead, but toward the driver because she thought he might be her father. She never called out, she only watched. The cart turned a corner and vanished. Somewhere a dog barked. Somewhere else the door to a church slammed shut. The rot did not begin with bodies. It began with fear. Fear that crept in like rats, in ships from the south, in the coughing of strangers, in the fevered whispers of physicians who no longer touched the sick. The doctors came in masks shaped like birds, their beaks filled with sage and rosemary, their breath shallow beneath their veils. They walked through alleys with long staffs, turning the infected over with wood instead of hands. Behind them came fire bonfires of gowns, blankets, Bibles, and names. So many names. Written on parchment, scratched into walls, muttered in sleep. Gone. A monk in the scriptorium copied them until the ink ran dry. Thomas, Marjorie, Elric, Agnes. His candle burned down, and still he wrote, as though the act of recording could fend off the silence. But the silence always won. In a stone manor on the hill, where once a noble family feasted beneath stained glass windows, ivy now grew unchecked through the floor. The hearth was cold. A silver goblet lay tipped on its side. The long table bore a feast, untouched roasted goose, now green with rot, figs shriveled to husks, and bread turned black with time. The Lord had fled weeks ago, taking his wealth, his wife, his guards. The servants were not so lucky. In the cellar, a maid died beside an open cask, her hand still reaching toward the tap. She had hoped to drink herself into forgetting. Outside, the well had been poisoned, not by malice, but by the sheer weight of neglect. Rats had drowned in it. Leaves choked its mouth. And yet a woman still came to it each morning, her veil soaked with vinegar, clutching a rosary in one hand and a clay pitcher in the other. She did not speak to others. She only filled her vessel, crossed herself, and returned to the cottage where she had buried her children in the garden. Their graves were marked by stones painted with ash and spit. Her husband had been taken by the city guard for burning his neighbor's house. He believed the man had cursed them. No one stopped him. The law had collapsed like a lung. What ruled now was rumor and ritual. Some said garlic in the windows kept death away. Others burned their hair and scattered it in the street. The apothecary died mixing poppy with vinegar, hoping for a cure. The bishop fled. The grave diggers could no longer keep pace. They tossed lime into pits so deep that even the rats avoided them. And yet, life flickered in strange corners. A baker's apprentice fed a blind beggar beneath the ruins of a bridge. A midwife, untouched by illness, though surrounded by it, delivered twins in a stable and named them after the archangels. A boy climbed the bell tower each morning and rang the hours, though no one asked him to. No one even knew his name. They simply heard the chime and wept. Wept because it meant time still passed, because it meant someone still lived. In the cloister garden of the old abbey, where herbs once grew for poultices and salves, frost now crusted over broken stems. A single sprig of thyme bloomed out of season, stubborn and green. A novice monk found it and fell to his knees, not in prayer, but in exhaustion. He had been alone for 5 days, lighting candles for brothers who would never wake again. He sang their names at dawn. The pages of the Psalter fluttered in the wind. Domini exaudiorationem meum. His voice cracked, but the notes lingered, wrapped in the smoke from the altar, and still no answer came. The plague did not arrive with warning, and it did not leave with closure. It hovered, it waited. It lived in silence and in the stone, in the cracked foundations of homes and the bowed beams of barns. Cities, once mighty and defiant, once built with pride in arches and aqueducts, were reduced not by siege or fire, but by stillness. The kind of stillness that settles in bones, that seeps into the soul. A girl walks alone now through the center of town, her footsteps echoing on flagstones littered with wilted herbs and broken charms. She carries a basket with nothing in it, her hands are cracked. Her dress is patched from 5 different fabrics. One was her mother's shawl, one her sister's sleeve. She walks to remember, not for food, not for safety, just to walk, to feel the city still beneath her, to prove that the world has not yet vanished. Above her, a single crow circles the steeple, calling out once, then vanishing into the fog. Behind a sealed door, a harp gathers dust. No one will play it again. But the string hums softly in the draft, as though mourning, as though waiting.